He's always. We had green, I think.
Okay, well, I'm gonna call the meeting to order because we've got 4 staff here and we don't want to make a. I'm gonna call the meeting to order. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. A beautiful summer day. Parks, Environment, Climate Action Advisory Committee meeting. And this is our first one as a sort of merged committee. Hoping that people have had a look at the agenda. Do I have any late items for the agenda? Any changes?
No.
No? Anybody else want to add anything to the agenda?
No.
Can I just, oh, never mind, you're gonna cover that in your update. Okay, good. So, then can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay, there's a bunch of them. Thank you. That agenda is approved by consent. Public comments? Anybody here for public comments? I don't think so. We've got a delegation here. So you're gonna have to close the door. My monitor will start going up. Okay. Good. Yeah. It's the elections that will get rowdy. So, first up, 3.1, so that was 1 and 2. Oh, and I want to acknowledge, of course, that we're holding this meeting, working on behalf of nature and climate and the environment and well-being on Bowen Island and beyond as part of Howe Sound Biosphere. Oh, hi, Preet. On the territory of the Squamish Nation. And the marine waters around is shared with Tsleil-Waututh and Musqueam Nation. And we're all together in Howe Sound Biosphere working together. So I just wanted to acknowledge that territorial work. And now we're going to move on to number 3. So this is election of the chair and the vice chair. And hopefully people have put some more thought to this and they're not going to pull their names out. So I'd like to ask who wants to nominate somebody to be the chair of the Parks, Environment, and Climate Action Advisory Committee?
I'll nominate Will to be chair.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Phil. And Will, you accept the nomination? Okay, I'm probably doing it in the wrong order, but oh well. Anybody else want to run for chair? That's the second call. Third call. Anybody else want to nominate somebody for the chair of this committee? I see hands being folded. People sitting very still. Okay, do I need one more or is that it?
I think it's 3.
3.
Yeah.
Third call. Nominations for the chair? Okay, then nominations are closed. Hearing none. And Will, you are claimed as chair of the committee. Thank you very much. Yay. And just before we hand the chair over, I'll do the vice chair. Do I have a nomination for the position of vice chair for this committee?
I nominate Claudia.
Claudia. Claudia, do you accept this nomination?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Very good. So we've got one nomination. And I'm going to call.
A second.
Oh, second. Thank you very much, Phil. Thanks. And any more nominations for vice chair? Nominations for vice chair, calling again. People sitting very still. Third call, final call for nominations for the vice chair. Hearing none, you are acclaimed as vice chair. Thank you very much, Claudia. Very good. And I'm going to vacate this seat and Will, why don't you come up here? Claudia too, if you want. And
It's 2.
If I get that big chair.
and I'm just going to.
Yeah, it is a big.
It is a big chair. You can shift it around too. I'm gonna leave my backpack there.
Thank you, Sue Ellen.
Big chair to fill.
Well, you can use the smaller one if you want. It's our mayor's.
You need a minute to, you good to set up? You're all set?
That's it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey. Well, thank you for the vote of confidence, everyone, and let's get moving on to delegations. Sustainable Community Grant Report. Elaine, Cameron. Come on down.
You want to come and join us at the,
Yeah.
at the table? Yeah. Then everybody can hear you online like Lawrence. Hello, Lawrence. Yes.
Thank you for this opportunity, particularly because it comes with an air conditioned room. Yeah, and Carla, you said you were going to show the report,
Where they are. Okay.
speak to the report.
They're in the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just easier to pull it up right now. I could also share.
I just heard yesterday afternoon when I was in Vancouver that I was going to be doing this, so this is.
It's, which one is it? Is it the sustainability grant
That's
report?
something I can maybe just provide a little bit of context for last year's grant application, and we do have another one in this year, so same context. I'm from Bowen Island Food Resilience, as you've heard. And we chose the name Resilience because it really captured for us what we think we need to do on the island, both in terms of the supply chain issues that, of course, we've all become a lot more aware of with the pandemic and with currently with the trade wars. But also because of climate change. We had tossed around Bowen Island food security and Bowen Island sovereignty and intact-use for a while. And that's the explanation for why there is no R in our acronym, which is this, no R. But what we're trying to do is to build all of the things that we need to have on the island in order to have greater self-sufficiency. So that involves growing more food, having a better system for collecting that food and distributing it, and also for working more closely with nature and trying to do food growing in a way that is an imitation of nature rather than the destruction of nature, which our current industrial agricultural system is. So what brought us to our last application was we wanted to do some training on fruit gills and naturally irrigating with swales, composting, food preservation, because another aspect of resiliency is in our climate, we need to figure out how we're going to eat in the winter as well and preserve food, and seed starting. So we had intended on doing them in that order, but we didn't find out last year that we received the funding until beginning of October. So we sort of did a shift with things. And the first workshop that we did was the food preservation one. And if you could sort of scroll.
Yeah, sorry, my mouse is just. There it is.
It's just a picture on it of a couple of people that are, one person actually at our food preservation workshop. That's the one on the right. And we held that at Belterra Common House. And that's one of the participants. It actually turned out to be better to run 3 workshops rather than just one, so that everybody could go through the whole process and have the hands-on experience that I hope, I was the person leading this workshop, I hope would make you feel comfortable in being able to do it at home. And we chose applesauce because we have lots of apples on the island and they're fairly inexpensive. And applesauce doesn't require a sweetener, so it's a healthy thing that can be used in multiple ways. And it's one of the easiest things to can, so it made a really good basic canning workshop. And that's one of our participants who's looking quite pleased with herself and her jars there. On the left is you can see 4 people. And that's and they're participating in planting seeds and transplanting seedlings. And again, we ended up running 2 workshops rather than 1, and they were quite small, but they were successful. And we did some informal, with our volunteers as well, but we had advertised the 2 workshops. And one of the real advantages of having the workshop, that one is in our quite new polytunnel, so it didn't matter that it wasn't nice outside. But one of the advantages of having those workshops at the garden is that it helps us to start the garden as well. The garden is almost totally volunteer. We have a small amount of paid labor. But it gives us an edge and provides us a little bit of volunteer labor while we are able to teach people about regenerative agriculture. So that's what's happening in that workshop. And then there was a long piece while it was waited for it to warm up, and that's a composting workshop. And the person who facilitated that is Phil Gregory, and those are posters he designed to explain the science of soil. And one of our goals at Grafton is to create good soil, which it isn't actually at Grafton Commons at the moment, but we're working on it. It's getting better. And Phil is explaining the science behind soil, which is actually really fascinating because most of what we know about soil is very recently discovered, like just in the last few decades, that there's actually been the science behind it and the ability to see what's going on in soil. So after that explanation, I think actually that's Phil crouching down there, and he's showing people how to use really high quality compost to make compost extract, and then everybody had a hands-on opportunity to apply it. So our next two workshops were, what we decided to do, we had originally thought that we would have a fruit tree guilds workshop and a swales workshop. And swales are a way of using the contour of the land and building contours so that you capture water and then keep it. And fruit tree guilds are a way of having that biodiversity and soil building that uses the soil to produce good fruit. So we combined those for the first one on June 8th. And then we got really creative on June 18th and combined the fruit tree guilds and the swales, and also threw in a little bit of compost extract workshop into that one as well. So those are the 5 workshops that we did. And what we're hoping to do next year is we've started work on building a food forest, which is a way of growing food that really mimics mostly the edges of forest where there's a fair amount of light.
Ask you not to.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Thanks.
Yeah, the other.
Yes, didn't get a chance, so if we could just stick to the report.
Okay, that's fair. I didn't know who those people were. So, okay, so any questions about it?
Just curious, how many participants, more or less, do you think?
Sorry, I knew somebody was gonna ask that and I didn't have a chance to look. Let's see. Maybe 40, maybe.
Okay, 40 and 40 to 50, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Good. Thank you.
Kind of winging it on that.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Another question from,
I'm just wondering where you get your water from.
We have a creek,
I know there's a creek up there, but
and there's a pump, yeah.
isn't it ephemeral? Isn't it dry up?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, wow.
And I can answer no questions about how the water gets from the creek onto the property. Unfortunately, I'm not that person, but.
You have
but
a
no,
tank
it's-
there, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's a really good 12-month water source.
That's not that common, though, and
No, it's not,
Extremely
no,
opportune that it's there.
yeah. Eons ago, that land was actually underwater and was a beach, so that the water is, the soil is very sandy there.
Yeah,
And
during
that's,
the ice age.
yeah.
are there plans to grow produce for the Owen market at all?
We do.
What do you do?
Yeah, the produce is used for some of the volunteers, and then we sell some of it at the market. And as our soil improves and we're able to bring more of it under cultivation, we'll be selling more. And the farmers market is now under Bowen Island Food Resilience umbrella. So our goals are really well aligned with theirs.
Kaylee,
Some of the food donated to the food bank. Some of the food is donated to the food bank, but we donate more food to the food bank through our other project, which is low hanging fruit.
all right. Any more questions? Well, Elaine, thank you so much for your delegation.
Thank you.
Very interesting.
Yes, and everybody, I should have introduced staff at the beginning. I think we know each other, but perhaps if you will allow me, Chair.
Please,
I just want to introduce planners, department manager Daniel Martin is over there against the wall. This is Xerxes, who's going to be speaking to one of the items today, Xerxes Zhao, right? And this is Preet Dillon, and she's our climate intern. So they'll be talking to us, and of course, you know, Sarah and Carla over here, just in case anybody is questioning that. Everybody knows everybody else, right? Volunteers? Okay, sorry, back to you, Chair. I was
thanks for
negligent.
thanks for
Oh,
that.
and Lawrence is on the screen.
Yes. Yes. Lawrence, you'll have to speak up to catch my attention because
Yeah,
you're
I can.
behind me if you need to speak. So just say, "Will listen to me," darn it. Okay, thanks. Okay, next up is Parks rezoning with Xerxes. Oh, welcome.
Thanks, Chair. So I'm just here to introduce the park rezoning project. So council through its strategic plan, so goal of land conservation, and one of the listed actions is to amend land use designations for municipal parks to park zoning. We've identified 18 parks that could be rezoned to park zoning. Where we had park plan designations, staff tried to align the proposed zoning as close as we could to the 2018 parks plan. We recommend that 3 of the park zones be used: the multi-use activity park, the neighborhood park, and the natural park zones. So these changes would provide certainty and clarity to the park's land use designations, better align with their actual uses. And these changes would also help protect parks from any development on this land. So our recommendation as a staff report is that the committee here supports the proposed land use designations for the listed parks, and that these recommendations be brought to council for consideration.
Right. Does anybody have any questions? Okay.
I'm not familiar with the document that you're referring to, so I'm curious to know the definitions between a neighborhood park and a natural park.
Yeah, so those come from our land use bylaw. So the neighborhood park versus the natural park. The natural park is more for passive and conservation uses versus the neighborhood park allows for more play fields and playgrounds and those types of uses.
Okay, so it speaks more to the intended use rather than the existing condition.
Yeah.
Thank you.
On that, I noticed that there's designations P2, P3, and P4. Now, just out of curiosity, what is a P? Is there a P1, and how would that be described?
Yes, there is a P1. So that would be, I think P1's passive park, and where open spaces and outdoor assembly and play fields are allowed, but not playgrounds or hard surface courts, that kind of stuff.
Thanks. And I guess also in this, a couple of waterfront parks. And is that a special designation or is it just part of a nature park?
Yeah, the waterfront park is one of the designations on the parks plan. Off the top of my head, I don't.
So I see Sue Ellen's got her hand up.
I'm going to give a little background and Daniel can correct me if I'm wrong. But this is something that I approached council with for the strategic plan, because over the years since the municipality was formed, there's been a number of parks formed, but not all of them have been completely rezoned as parks. And through time, some of them have been changed. And so this goes to your question, McKeely, about intended use versus current condition in some cases. Anyway, the park zones are here in the land use bylaw, and I'm looking at page 59. So P1 is called passive. This is 4.11 park zones. So there are 4 park zones, and these are the ones that, if I'm understanding correctly, that you've been working with as proposed zones, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas in the parks plan, which was done in 2018, there are a number of park classifications that could become zones right one day, but they're not zones now. So that's the third column there. Is that correct? Xerxes? From the parks plan?
Yeah.
Designation. So they've been classified in here into different categories. And so this is why you'll see things like a waterfront park, but it's proposed to go into zone P2, which is multi-use activity park, if you look up just ahead. And like any rezoning or what any zoning bylaw, this one has the principal uses and accessory units and permitted buildings and conditions of use, things like that, with dots for the 4 different zones. So the one and that's great that you found 18, because I knew there was a bunch of them, but I didn't know how many. And I think this will really help. And the one example I want to bring forward is Seymour Bay Park, which back in 2002, the OCP amendment bylaw number 52 said the highest priority passive park at Seymour Bay. So that's passive park is something like Crippen, and the uses in it. So I don't even know at that time if we had land use bylaw yet. I'd have to look at the dates. Anyway, passive park is open space, interpretive center, athletic park. These are the principal uses. Outdoor assembly, so you could have a wedding there or something. Playfields. Playfields.
I'm just laughing. Playfields, Seymour Park, Seymour Bay Park thing.
Well,
There's no room there for anything.
it could be a use.
Wonderful.
Water polo, yeah.
Nature protection. Trails. Buildings and structures accessory to permitted uses. So. Well, maybe someday. Interpretive signs. Parking areas shall be finished with a permeable surface under conditions of use. Shelters shall be 50% open-sided under conditions of use. And that's it for passive. So multi-use, you can imagine, has way more things that can be allowed. Play fields, playgrounds, you know, as well as nature protection. And then the different categories are there. So I just wanted to mention Seymour Bay over the years was never zoned as P1 park. It stayed within, as I understand it, the Cowan Point comprehensive land use amendment. And since then, almost all the trees are gone. There's about maybe a quarter of them left. And many other changes there, including stormwater that flows under the vegetation down to the base of the beach and keeps the beach wet with water flowing off the properties above, which could in the future contain, car washing soap suds or other things that could make that water smelly and unsanitary. So that's a change that's different from P1, and that's why I'm really happy that this has come to us today. And for the idea that this committee might work with it and adjust it a little bit, maybe.
Do you mean the Seymour Bay designation?
The 18 of them that are in the agenda, there are 18 of them. Maybe these would be good to bring up on the screen. So that we can see everything from Aaron Sluggett Field, which is an open kind of play field, down to a bunch of them that are unnamed parks that we might want to find on the map. And I haven't even found them all.
So Sue Ellen,
That's my report. Anything incorrect there, Daniel? That you heard? Okay, thank you. Or let me know later.
I had hands up Claudia and then DG.
So by now more correctly designating them as park plans, and does that offer them better protection and so on? Does it change? What's changed by it?
Yeah, so a lot of things that are zoned rural residential and some of them really very protected as parklands. Some of the comprehensive development zones, they are listed as like only having park uses, but it's more for clarity would be the better more clear benefit that these land are intended to be used as parks.
Okay.
I could just add a
Yeah,
little bit to
okay.
that too.
DG, I'm not forgetting me. Yeah.
Just because we discussed it as staff after Sue had brought us to the strategic planning and we thought, a lot of the zonings that we had, the settlement had comprehensive development, because they were such small parcels left over from a larger subdivision. They were, they had already reached the maximum development for that zoning kind of thing. So like within that zone, you could only build so many houses. And so those were all done. So it excluded development in the park. And that's kind of why they were the park, and there was not going to be any development. But we've noticed that with the province changing the rules all the time, sometimes you end up having potentially in the future to develop lands that you wouldn't have intended on developing. So in this way, it just offers extra protection to the land to have that park zoning, regardless of if things change into the future. Potentially they could be rezoned from a park to something else, but it does add an extra step. I think it's either you have to do an extra bylaw, or maybe it's like Daniel can tell you, but anyways, he explained it to me at one point, and it is quite it's a more likely process and more difficult to do once it is zoned apart.
Just to follow on, but DG, I'm still not forgetting you.
Just that I think that it would also include a public process. So
Yes.
people would get a chance, citizens on board, including neighbors, and everybody else would get a chance to weigh. And another part of it is sometimes these, another example is part of the Cowan Point development that was up the hill. Some of it has become Headwaters Park, but some of it was slated to be a school at the time, a future school, future athletic fields. And so the athletic fields have been used over time as a gravel crushing all through the councils. And, I'm not saying anything has been wrong about that part, but it's the idea that the use is not what it is. It's not what it was expected at the time. So by labeling everything as park, you make it clear, I think, to everybody. And, we've had some varied councils over time. And, I'm was worried that some of the parks, for example, that are zoned as settlement residential could become something else without a lot of process or input from the municipality. Maybe something that was needed, like a works yard or something like that, but still, the intent was park, so this is a way to, I'm really glad to see it coming here. So I just wanted to say Sarah's put it up on the wall behind you there.
Okay, DG.
Okay. And I still remember what I wanted to say. So first of all, it's great to have the report and I'm very supportive of this initiative and, you know, getting things, I agree, will provide a lot more clarity, you know, compared to, you know, comprehensive development to park, because really does share the intent, so super positive about that. One of the things that would have been helpful for me, just as a comment, is in addition to the listing there is, you know, I see the list and I think, oh, okay, now where are these places? How big are they? And it would have been helpful to have the map with them on it in some way. I don't know how complicated that would be, but that would have been helpful for me to put it into context. But my question is, there are 18, some of them obviously unnamed. How many other, like, what does that 18 represent? Is that 50%? Is that 100% of our parks? What does that 18 represent in terms of, like, or why are only 18 chosen to have this, if it's not 100%, why are the 18 chosen? If that makes sense, the question.
Through the chair, the 18 were chosen out of the list of all the parks in the parks plan, as well as some other parks that have been added since the adoption of parks plan 2018. Those other parks already had park zoning. They were either one of the 4 parks, zone 1 for 4 park zones. So these are just all the ones that don't have any P1, P2, P3, or P4 zone.
So these other parks are P1, P2, P3, P4?
Yes.
Like
Already.
park is zoned correctly.
Is zoned correctly. Oh, okay, so the 18, and is that 100% of the,
Undesignated parts, is that?
yeah, of that it's parkland that's incorrectly?
There's no other areas that are meant to be park that aren't on this list that aren't getting changed to park. This captures everything that
Thank you.
is undesignated as park. All 8, there's no more that are remaining in non-park designation. We think we've captured it.
Through the chair, yes, we've captured all the parks that aren't zoned as parks.
Okay, and
That's 18.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Great.
I could
Okay,
add to that
yep.
too, if you'd like. So in the parks plan, there are 32 parks listed. On the
32.
parks map.
Okay.
So, since then, though, there have been some parks added, as Cersei had said. So, everything on here is either zoned as park or it's not a parcel. So we did have some parks in the parks plan. I know this is a little bit weird, but they're, because there are areas around, say like Cape Breton Curtis, where we have the widened road ends, which we like to call a waterfront park, but there's no actual zone to rezone. Because there's no parcel, like, if that makes any sense. So it would be,
It's a right of-
significant, it's a right of way, it would be significantly more complicated to try and capture that, but I don't think that there's really much concern there. I think that the parcel itself is not really large enough to be developed into anything really further.
Okay, McKaylee?
How did we come up with the proposed zoning? Can it be changed?
So the proposed zoning, we tried loosely to base it on what the classifications were in the parks plan. The zoning in the land use bylaw does not match even close, like remotely with the classifications in the parks plan. So where they did, we matched them up. where they didn't, as opposed to like looking at each one really closely and determining. You know, I mean, I think. It felt like a bit of a stretch to make all those decisions about all future uses of the park all in one go, in one sitting. So what we did was, we just looked at the accessibility of the park and the size of the park. And put a zoning on it where everything that would be possible in that park was possible within that zoning. So they are less restrictive than perhaps, what we would actually do with that park would be.
So my
But I-
example
Yeah.
is Buchanan Park is right across the street from me. I'm there all the time. To me, it shouldn't be a neighborhood park. To me, it should be a nature park, which I think is a stricter designation, is my understanding.
Well, I believe that we wouldn't be able to have the playground there anymore then.
That's what I was wondering.
So,
But with Bowen Brook there and all the natural habitat on the way in, and the fact that there's so little invasive species on the pathway. I mean, playground area is a different kettle of fish. So I was curious to know if we could bump that one up, or what would be the byproduct, and losing the swing set would be the result if we did that. Is that what I'm understanding?
And
so, but I'm sorry. Buchanan Park is currently a neighborhood park in the Parks Plan.
But
That's the
Michaela
designation.
is saying that
in the
it
Parks Plan?
might be better.
I can't
in a
change.
nature park.
No, but I can't change the Parks Plan. It was written in 2018 and it's
Okay.
this.
So then,
But it's P2,
So-
rather than now
But
getting designated.
Right.
as-
so I was thinking it should be the same as Mike's Lure. And I think maybe my problem is that I was looking at the wrong.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's the new, so the Parks Plan designation is just what it is in the Parks Plan, it
Yes.
doesn't change, it's
Right.
only the proposed zone from the land use bylaw, P2, 3, 4.
But I guess now, Michaela's point has made me wonder which ones were considered nature parks in the Parks Plan that are now, not, why did they not all become P4?
The only things that are allowed in a P4 zone are interpretive information center or nature protection. And trips. So open space is not allowed.
So Evergreen Park.
The one that is. So, I don't know, it just seemed fairly restrictive, for a park. Where, most of our parks are undeveloped. And I didn't want to restrict, park type developments in those parks. I mean,
Is it something that, obviously it's happened at the staff levels, is there any thought of bringing it to this group to talk about the?
I think that we could talk about it further in this group, but I would not want to make the, like personally as staff, I wouldn't want to make the zoning very restrictive without something like, the Parks Plan, for example. I wouldn't want to make it more restrictive than the Parks Plan, just given that that's something that we consulted the community on, and I feel like being that restrictive with all of the parks or a large number of them is something that would probably deserve a wider consultation. I just find it, for me, like, it's hard for me to say, there's absolutely no playgrounds allowed in any of these parks, when you look at somewhere like Buchanan Park, where it has a small swing set. That I don't think, and where there's no playgrounds in large areas of the island. I think we have quite a few that are just nature parks where they're already just not developed or not going to be accessible, but where the parks are accessible, I don't want to discount future uses like that when they might end up being required.
So,
I guess my concern though is that, you know, could be neighbors wanting, you know, playground in their local nature park. And all of a sudden there, you know, there's pressure from other sides and the nature parks, or not called that anymore, but the P4s are meant to protect and also be the benefits of just being in nature for residents. And leaving, I'm not saying don't leave anything open, but just like where we leave things open can lead to, you know, incursion and infractions on what was meant to be a protected area of some kind of nature.
I've got on that, a question about process and it seems to me that, this proposal is, to put a designation on unnamed parcels of land that should be parks. And that when at the time comes that, an undeveloped park does, proposed, I forget what the national park system does for when a park isn't a park yet. Reserve, let's call them reserves. That when one of these undesignated, unnamed ones like, oh, I don't know. One of the unnamed ones is up for, being turned into any kind of park. It comes to staff and maybe staff refers it to this body. And we put in our 2 cents worth about the value of that land for conservation and maybe other committees will be putting in their 2 cents worth about the value of it as a park for cultural and other recreation and that kind of thing. So I see this as the first step. You know, we're taking parcels of land that are not protected as parks and giving them one of these protections. And then when time comes that somebody wants to put a swing set on that wetland, staff and the committees meet and we decide about that. Is that the kind of process that is likely to happen?
I mean, yeah, I think that's likely to happen. I mean, I don't think there's a process in place for that, but we also don't get a ton of requests for playgrounds. And when we do, we would go to the parks plan, I would say, as a first step and say, you know, do we think this is an acceptable use based on those zonings? Honestly, I don't think I've ever looked at the land use bylaw zonings before trying to plan a parks project, right? So I'm looking at the parks plan because that's the, well, you know, our guiding document, not the land use bylaw, whereas, you know, planning might, but so that's kind of my justification a little bit for not being too concerned about what this zoning is and more concerned about the parks plan.
Gigi.
Yeah, just I'm comfortable with the parks, you know, getting this parks designation, but you know, just building on what McKaylee said about the proposed zone. I mean, it almost seems to me like I that when I look there, what's, you know, like a nature park and I like Buchanan Park, because I agree with you. I mean, Buchanan is a beautiful riparian and it really just needs a trail. And I didn't realize there was a little swing set there, but
My kids love that swing set.
please don't take it away. Yeah, everybody loves the swings. Yeah, for
They
sure.
still play there.
But when I look at, you know, that space and it's a P2 versus, you know, where's another one, that is also Aaron Sluggett Field, which is a P2, very different kinds of parks. And so you know, the proposed zone is the part I'm a little like. I think. I'm not that comfortable with that, and I'm just wondering about how, you know, if we move ahead with these proposed zones. How cast in stone are they? And, you know, I guess it, you know, to change them from one designation to another, is that gonna be difficult? And I would imagine yes. So, and if that is the case, I think we need to spend a little bit more, or I don't know whether I'm the only one who's not comfortable with that. And I guess when I was reading it earlier, I just sort of. I just saw, and I didn't make the connection that, you know, the designation community park P2, and that actually. Coming down, they weren't always consistent as to, you know, and then I started thinking a little bit more about, well, Aaron's like a field, it looks like this. Buchanan Park, it looks like this. So anyways, I.
Obviously Carla has like, you know, looked at
Yeah.
what's there and put, but I think it would be just great to get feedback from this group, because I think, like you said, it's difficult to change. And I think, while we don't want to restrict too much, we don't want to leave too much open. And, you know, just even going in a subcommittee or another meeting, if there's time, I would really, feels like this is what this group is.
Yeah, we've got a lot
help
of
with.
expertise around the table, right?
Yeah, I was gonna just add to that in terms of the development of the parks plan, which we were involved with previously. A lot of us in the room were, there were certain criteria that were, you know, that led to the original park plan designations. And so I guess it would be a bit of a step away from that, or a step back, to see those designations change to something that was not originally intended, unless there are good criteria, like, for example, the playground at Buchanan Park, which might say, okay, a small portion of that may need to be changed. But I also see others like our Renison Nature Park designated P2 up there, which, unless I'm misreading that, the wrong row, but I just wonder what are the criteria for redesignation or rezoning those.
P2, what put it into that class?
Yeah, I guess my question is, what were the criteria for selecting those P categories in contrast with what the original intent was in the park plan designation? So I think it does warrant some conversation about this to discuss.
Perhaps another approach would be to look at parks that already have the designations that aren't on this 18 list and classify them and say, this is the type of park that meets this designation. And then here's our 18 that are unclassified. How do we feel that they fit into these groups? If there is no set criteria laid out. Maybe that's something that we can use to work towards that.
I think I'm hearing an appetite for the committee to know more about them, at least to look at them on a map and have, I would suggest the part of zones, the proposed descriptions of the zones in front of them, so you can see what actually would be permitted. And that might be, another meeting, or maybe combined with the walkabout to some of the ones we've got questions with after that. Anyway, but I would say the criteria are kind of in here, from what I understood from staff who've looked at this. And that's in the park designation column. And then I think I heard, this is a question for Carla, that accessibility, you took, as well as this parks plan, you took accessibility into effect and what's currently on the parks. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And also, sorry, one last thought is, having, with the Nature Takes Half bylaw in play, having this zoning sort of an eye for that, for when there will be an area that's rezoned for park, knowing what those criteria are? And is there a mechanism then in place to basically classify those new parks that are coming in, or is that also going to be caught this way? Is there a potential for outliers again in the future?
I think Will was mentioning that it'd be nice if there was a new park coming on board that we could discuss it, and advise or give feedback.
Yeah,
Is
wonder if
there a
there could,
mechanism?
yeah, there could be a like a reserve or something, sorry, maybe.
Okay, Sue Ellen, and then maybe me.
Through the chair. If council refers proposals to the committee, that's the usual. Right, this is a little bit different because we're being staff is requesting our input about this proposal that council has on the strategic plan, so it's kind of a referral. But for individual things, they would I hope that future councils would refer proposals to the community. Back to you, Chair.
Thanks. I think one thing I'm gonna say is, I know Carla's put a lot of work into this already. Thinking, Carla and Xerxes. And I don't want us to disregard that work, and I don't think that's the intention of this group. I think our intention is to support and help. And so it looks to me like maybe we need with the concerns that people are expressing, is that we need to have a meeting with the map, with the designations from the park plan in front of us, just so that we understand, so that we can support this in a way that I think we want to. So.
Another layer of. It's to add another layer of protection. Go ahead, Sue.
Yes, I was gonna make a recommendation that that our committee is supportive of parks designation. However, we would like to have the opportunity for some further review as per what you had just said about, you know, with the maps, and whether it be a subcommittee meeting or on our next meeting, so that we can have the information. And I think we could get through it fairly quickly, and what I get excited about is that there's a lot of extra brains in this room that could really help, you know, because it's not gonna be easy to move, to change. We need to, it's important that we get it right, so let's make use of all the brains around
And
here
be
to
strategic,
do
yeah.
that. So,
To before.
yeah, so that was a really long-winded motion, but maybe Sarah, you got the gist of it?
Is it anything close to this?
I would, I don't think we need to make a recommendation to council right now, do we? I
No,
mean,
no.
We're not gonna bring it to council.
Okay.
If the parks committee is not supporting it, there's not really,
Not yet, quite not,
so
okay.
I think we can come back to another meeting, or I think it would be, might be preferable if there a subcommittee.
Or a workshop.
A
You know,
workshop.
something where we can gather around the maps and move around and chat more. I don't
Look
think
at areas.
Yeah. But that's just an idea.
Well, we can put it on the agenda for next meeting, and we can, you know, put up a map on the screen or on the table, and some of the, I mean, most of them will probably be obvious to everyone, and then there might just be a few that we.
Road trip, go take photos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here.
So refer for detailed discussion next meeting, something like that.
Well, I think we can just put it on the action items.
Yeah.
To. Next meeting or workshop? I think there's chat a bit more about it after the meeting. Figure out the best way to move forward, but we'll send an invite out to the committee, I think, one way or the other, and then whoever would like to participate. would be expected, whether it's a subcommittee or.
That sounds great.
Okay.
And in the meantime, so we could be a little proactive, I'm not sure of the agenda package and what you just had on screen. Can we tell anything where those unnamed parks, I mean, the ones that have names, we can figure out, but just so we can think ahead and figure out where they are ourselves, or is it?
Sue Ellen has her hand up. I think probably an answer to that question.
What I did is I looked in the parks plan, and page 8 of the parks plan has all these little undeveloped parks down here. Up to 32 parks, which is what we heard from staff that we have now. So they're all numbered in their own map, page 8 in the parks plan. And this, which says exactly what's allowed in the current park zones. This is section 4.11 of the land use bylaw.
Would you be able to send that out to us, like that is the P1 to P4, what's allowed and everything?
It's page 59 according to.
Can you also attach a link to the parks plan?
So page 59 of the land use.
Great, thank you, Sue Ellen. That's very helpful. So I think we're through with this. Thank you, Xerxes.
Thank you, Xerxes. Sorry for, yeah.
Probably took longer than you expected.
Thank you.
So that's
Good. Okay,
You're next.
yep. Okay, Daniel, official community plan update. Oh, yeah, that's right. 5.2. Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you for having me here today. I wanted to come to discuss a project that hopefully you have heard of that we're doing, which is a project to update our official community plan. So I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about what the project is, to outline where we are in the process, tell you what we've heard so far, and then to go through what feedback we'd like from the committee and more importantly, feedback as we go forward through the process. This is sort of my initial touch point to do with the committee. Yes, I'm anticipating more engagement through the fall. Yeah, and I'll say we wanted to come to you in the spring when we sort of were launching some of our engagement that, you know, we were in the process that I've adopted in terms of reference and stuff. I'm here today. Okay, so our official community plan was adopted in 2011. I know many of you are familiar with that document, but saying that council has determined that time is right to update our OCP. It's been 14 years. A lot has changed on Bowen. It's time to sort of reflect and see is this still an accurate plan for our community. And so council's formed an OCP steering committee that's 10 members of Bowen community members who are guiding the process, and we've hired McElhaney as a planning consultant to help us guide us through that process. So this is the four phases of the update process. So the first one was through the fall and the winter, where committee and McElhaney did a lot of background work. So background reviews. McElhaney produced a series of papers on sort of like the situation on Bowen, our infrastructure and servicing and whatever else. Did work with the committee on engagement workshops and engagement communication plans. And then this spring, we did, so this phase 2 was preparing engagement materials, doing online and in-person engagement. We did an online survey. And just last week, McElhaney produced the What We Heard report. So we heard in that first survey. I hope you all completed the survey. If not, there'll be future opportunities. And then what we're going to do then through the summer then is look at drafting visions, goals, emerging policy options based on that survey, based on the initial feedback that we heard. And then through, it says here summer, winter, and I think truthfully we're probably slipping in terms of our schedule. So it's sort of like through the winter, it's drafting the outline of the OCP, drafting actual OCP policies. And doing then a further round 2 engagement on that draft OCP policies, draft OCP document itself. Seeking feedback on that sort of whole package. Doing revisions based on that engagement, coming to council with hopefully at some point a final draft OCP that then actually follows like a bylaw adoption process, in which calls for more engagement and more like council weigh-ins as we go forward. So then what we will be coming next week, I think, to council with the What We've Heard report. 21st, next Monday. Yeah. So shortly it'll be published on our website. I think tomorrow it gets published on our website as part of the agenda publication. And so I've got just the highlights here for you to look at for your discussion. So we had 674 surveys submitted, which we were happy with. I think our target was like 500 to 600, so we were happy over 600 surveys response. We did 21 different pop-up events. We estimate we engaged about 1,000 people. Found the most successful way to engage people was in the ferry lineup. Quite a lot of work targeting people there as they're very captive audience. So that was fun. I wanted some of the themes. So one of the things the survey asked was looking at our current OCP, our vision and our goals in the OCP, and to ask people what still resonates with you. And so I thought relevant for this committee, by far the vision that resonated most with survey responses was that a well-protected natural ecosystem and green spaces was the highest number. People could pick from the current OCP vision statement what they valued, and this was the top value. The second place being that diverse population. And same with when we asked about OCP goals. We asked, I think our current OCP is 12 goals maybe. And we asked people to pick their top 3. And again, the top response, top goal that people valued was to preserve and protect unique amenities and natural environment of the Bowen Island for the benefit of Bowen Island residents and for the residents of British Columbia. And the second one being to manage growth in a way that is conditioned by the natural environment, respect social and economic diversity. And the third one being recognize the importance of marine environment and preserve marine-oriented community. So I thought those were like interesting results, to probably not unexpected, but also still, noteworthy, I think, in terms of just what came through that survey of us trying to reach a broad range of people on Bowen was, protection of natural environment. When we'll publish the report tomorrow, and it has the full survey response to go through, and it is interesting to read all the comments we got. People, we asked some questions on like what do you value on Bowen? Like what do you want to protect? What is important to you about Bowen? Why did you pick? And we heard from people saying, essentially it's like nature and community, right? There were 2 words that came out of it. Those were the 2 things, which was kind of heartening, like nice to, so keep saying that's what they want to protect. The What We Heard report then talks about, okay, what are some insights that we've gained? And they had a section on environmental sustainability priorities, which is sort of the consultants collecting some of their thoughts in terms of where is this direction going. So other than what I said, it lists some of the things that can be here. Sustainable tourism, concentrating future growth in Stone Cove and Seymour Bay, which is interesting as well. One of the questions we asked was, our 2011 OCP talks about growth being like housing growth, development growth, concentrated in Stone Cove and in Seymour Bay to a lesser extent. It's kind of our 2011 OCP. And we asked people, is that still a current vision of yours, or do you want to see growth spread more evenly across the island? We hear both things. And it was pretty, again, overwhelmingly concentrate growth in Stone Cove and Seymour Bay. All right, so the next steps, what we'll be doing, like I said, working to draft policies. And so coming to committees as the plan drafting takes place. But so what sort of questions we've been asking people are, like what has worked and what hasn't worked in the current OCP? What is missing in the current OCP? And then as we work to like draft OCP outline and policies that go back to reflecting what your thoughts are. So I wanted at that point to open it, just an initial touch point. Well, people had thoughts on those questions of like, what has worked, what hasn't worked in the current OCP as you go through those, are there things that people thought of saying, okay, this is something that I feel like has been missing, something we need to ensure is captured. Yeah, and then, I know sort of a big open-ended sort of question, so that's why I sort of want to phrase it here, but say, I'm happy to take input at this point from the committee, but then knowing I've come back and so that this isn't a one shot, but more I wanted to inform you about the project. And I was excited to share some of that survey responses that just came in, so you're the first ones to see it. So maybe I'll stop there and pass it.
Any questions or comments from committee?
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Interesting report. I'm just curious, so though what there was a survey response,
Yeah.
were you collecting kind of feedback in a different way from at the pop-up events, for example, and where is that information?
That's in the report as well.
Oh, okay.
So it goes through the survey, but also like the responses. So we, like we ask people for post-it notes, and then actually Xerxes and Sarah faithfully transcribe all of the notes we have. So they're all
Okay.
included in the material. So
And then is that sort of synthesized in the report?
yeah, so the report like goes through like, here it's showing the percentage in the survey. And then,
Yes.
and then it'll have like a section, then more narrative section in terms of like what else we heard or themes that emerged.
Okay,
And then
great. I
there's
just
discussion. Yeah.
wanted to make sure that part was captured,
Yeah.
and to understand that was
I
captured.
mean, I think it's always hard to capture to some extent. Like one of the things we're doing is asking the committee members that to say, okay, you ran a pop-up event. You've informed people about what's happening. You have the like post-it notes that they recorded, and then asking people, okay, can you capture like themes that were discussed, right? And that's the hardest one to capture.
Yeah,
Well, I talked to 10 people and some of them talked about this and some talked about this. It's harder to.
harder to capture.
Harder
Yeah,
to
surveys
capture.
are way easier.
And that's what we try to like in the pop-up events, it's like, we tell people, it's great you told me this. Now please fill out a survey and like write it down as well. So we make sure that it's.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you.
Detailed comments that you are looking for at this point. So when you're talking about changes to the OCP, my first thing is updating schedule 3 and 4, but I don't know if that's in your purview.
I think for the committee, like, it might be something you want to think about for a future meeting where the committee might say, it might be a subcommittee, might say, oh, here are our 4 top things or something like, when we went to the emergency program.
Executive committee.
Yeah, something. I know the emergencies.
PEC.
Yeah, they ended up with a list of like 4 things through the initial thing, and they said emergency, it's like fire smart. Right. So that's helpful in a sense of saying, okay, these are top things that the committee's like sort of reflected on and thought about. Or just, but we're just like, taking comments from people that but I know sometimes it's a lot, I don't think probably the committee can't make a recommendation at this meeting and feel like, oh, we've captured it. It's
So,
I wonder, a couple of times when we've had these meetings, and I can't remember whether it's been Parks, Trails and Greenways or Environment and Climate Action. But the issue of trees dying in natural areas, creating a fire hazard has come up. You mentioned that, I think, DG, and it might be a theme. It's something that has come up in these committees, so I just wanted to get the ball rolling, was the idea of what happens when climate change or an insect outbreak or whatever, I guess, creates damages natural area, or it could be private land too. And tree removal is, I guess it all goes through Fire Smart then, wouldn't it? I don't know.
it's a big thing about like, when you drive through Stanley Park, right, and you see the effect of they had a infestation, right, and having to like manage parkland, right, dramatically too.
I just wanted to bring that up, the dead trees in natural areas on Bowen, as something that I'm hearing about more from other islands. And I'm hearing about it from people on Bowen as a sort of concern, something to be aware of, might be something to address the plan. But I'm just throwing that out there as an example, that is that the kind of input that you might be themes that you might be interested in? Okay, all right, I don't know if it's one that is this group, but these kind of things that maybe we've talked about a few times.
Oh, I'd definitely like to, yeah, have the group be part of a conversation around that, because we don't want all our dead standing trees to be removed for fire purposes, because they're also incredibly important wildlife attribute in our forests, and so
Yeah.
there has to be a balance.
You know, there's a lot of fire smart issues that are biodiversity unfriendly.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, I think, and they're not mutually exclusive, you know, and I think there's ways around it, too. You know, the thing that makes a dead tree a real fire hazard is if it's got, dead needles and branches that are close to the ground to make it a candle. But, so there can be other things that are done, but I guess the thing that I really want to say is Daniel asked two big questions. What do you like about what's in the OCP, and what's missing? And I, for one, am gonna have to spend some time with the OCP to answer those questions in any detail, you know, so I think we need some time to get back to you. Go ahead, Carla.
I was just gonna say, I like where Smel's going with the ecological aspects of fire smart, and that's definitely something that the committee can comment on, but I wanted to maybe expand on, to say that this committee also has a mandate to comment on climate action. And I think that there was some, you know, mention of a lot of, you know, different, I think reducing emissions, the LWCP was really centered around. But I think that maybe we need to think about adaptation, and we need to think about making some comments on sea level rise, and making sure that growth isn't happening too close to the coastline. And you know, things like flooding, just being aware of the hazards and climate risks that are coming up, and how those are.
And also shifts in invasive species.
Claudia, then Sue Ellen, and then Michaela.
I guess while we're talking about it, Fire Smart, is that fully adopted by our municipality? Is there room for discussion to tailor it more to Bowen's needs and desires or outcomes?
We currently have a fire smart coordinator that's on for 15 hours a week, and I think that a lot of his role has to do with education and you know, getting out to the community, and it's not just about vegetation treatments. That's not the only thing that he's doing. But I think that people who, I haven't spoken with him yet, but people who have been kind of coordinating that fire smart before, I always make sure to have a conversation about, you know, the types of forests that we have here, and that they're not the same as the interior. And I think that everyone who works here is quite aware of that. So, and understanding that the dynamic of our forests actually helps retain some moisture, and it's just not, you know, it doesn't have all the same characteristics. We have in our Fire Smart brochures, specifically for Bowen Island, it does make mention of that as well, to consider those aspects. So, it's a program. We're not signed up. It's like guidelines, right? It's not policy that we're on. So yeah, but we try to make those changes.
So, Sue Ellen.
Yeah, thanks. Carla's right, of course. And I mean, no, of course. And I happen to be on the Emergency Program Executive Committee, I think it's called. So and I'm on, and because I'm also involved in some committees on the Islands Trust, I know that drier islands are facing these questions as well. So right now, we've got a nice little brochure, for example, on the Fire Smart part of the website. So if you go to the municipal website and you find the fire emergency program, maybe I'll send around a link, should send around that. And you look at that and it talks about Fire Smart from a coastal perspective, not from a interior Alberta perspective, which is where those guidelines started from. And I've been looking into it deeply too, so it turns out that the closer to old growth condition a forest is, the less likely it is to ignite or burn hot or burn ground fire, all that kind of. Anyway, there's a bunch of stuff. I think we should be trying to think about our island as a sponge island and keep any rain that falls, slow it down and keep it in the soil. And, some of these kinds of ideas might be useful for the OCP. So when some of it is new information. And of course, all the climate stuff we've been learning from it. You guys probably know more than me, but I'm really glad that Daniel brought it here to introduce the idea to us so we can think about it over the next little while. And Preet is here too, and she's our climate intern, so she's updating our climate action strategy, for Bowen. So there's a bunch of stuff going on, a bunch of staff working on it, and I'm hoping we can have input. I'm sure that's something you were going to talk about.
Thank you, Sue. McKaylee.
A lot of thoughts. Sort of in random order, I don't know if the municipality actually has a budget for their Fire Smart within the parks, is there? Okay.
Oh, within the parks.
Yeah.
We have quite a large grant, Fire Smart grant that's very specific, what it can be used for, and that was for hiring a Fire Smart coordinator and also for doing Fire Smart assessments on private property. That's what he goes around to do, and I believe we also give grants to those homeowners if they do want to do work. It's like a cost sharing program, and educational events. I don't believe any of that money can be used for vegetation treatments on municipal land. I would have to look into that, but I have big doubts on that.
Okay. So then it occurs to me that another thing that could happen in these cases where people are expressing concerns about the fuel load within parks is basically just pulling it back from the trails, because it's the combination of the fuel load and humans that causes fire. So pulling it back, like when we were doing the felling up at Radar Hill, they basically pulled all of the vegetable debris 10 meters back from the trails that they reactivated, and left the majority of it on site to decompose and meet the ecosystem requirements. So that's something that could be considered. It also occurred to me that with the OCP, things that it didn't look at were the shifts also in from natural environments or native species to invasive and unnatural environments, and sort of casting an eye to including that in the OCP, as well as there was a document that was recently released from the province that talks about the shift in the biogeoclimatic zones from climate change, and Bowen may have a shift in the sun classifications on island, and that's something that needs to be looked at as well. To be included.
Daniel.
I'm just gonna as well bring to the committee's attention, we received, just as you think about, more a comprehensive listing of OCP stuff that you want to see. We've received a letter from the Bowen Island Conservancy that I can have Sarah circulate. It was on a OCP steering committee agenda. And they put some thought into like, well, what would policies be needed in the OCP looking forward in terms of environmental stuff on Bowen? So it may be a place for you to as a starting point as well.
I think most people in this committee probably know that the Conservancy has um, um, uh, initiative called Caring for Nature, which is about, biodiversity and maintaining it, on Bowen. And so, I think that they've made a submission to the, OCP committee, and I think we can get a hold of that.
That's what Dan-
That's what Daniel's talking about. And, you know, at least one of us, me, is on, well, Sue Ellen's on the steering committee too, with that initiative, so, we can keep, everybody informed on developments, that, are coming from the Conservancy that, are relevant. Anything more? I think, I'm looking forward to, having us, do our homework, look at the OCP, follow McKaylee's example and have a bunch of ideas about things that are missing and that kind of thing. I really like the point Carla made about climate change and sea level rise. In our ECAT committee, I did a first draft of a map and some discussion on that based on some of the models that are out there. I think Carla pointed out that probably the best source of information is from the Howe Sound biosphere work. I think it's the biosphere that anyway, it's the mapping system that came out of Fiona Beatty and her group. So I think that information is out there and probably improving. And so I think we should be looking at that and swelling.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, when finding these ideas for things that people should be looking at, if we can, make a note, put them in the information items of the next agenda, even if they don't fit under a topic, at least people can go, oh, I can find them, I can look in the information items. That'll remind me where to go to get whatever. So, if we have information items, I guess we should send them to you, Carla.
And Sarah as well.
Okay, and then you can decide, make sure we get the right ones.
Yeah. I can use, I can link to the, marine reference guide.
Yeah, that's the, yeah,
They do have a lot of, sources of data on there.
Yeah.
And, in terms of hazards, like for sea level rise, there is the Metro Vancouver multi-hazard mapping was recently completed. It's at a regional scale, so it's not
yes.
super relevant for, you know, looking closely at yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting nonetheless, and we
Yeah.
don't have any similar mapping, so I
Yeah.
think that's,
Yeah.
that's what we do.
Great.
Okay.
So I'm going to say, thank you, Daniel. I find your report was really uplifting, about the things that, fellow Bowen Islanders are interested in. I think, it's what this committee is really interested in. And so, I think we'll be happy to, do the digging and finding, things to talk to you about those two questions you gave us. McKaylee's.
I can look at the other one. Look at the one. I think that's good.
And
Yeah, that's.
McKaylee, you're on next for the
Yes.
Sustainable Community Grants.
And I met, and went over the community grant applications, and there were 2 applications. One for the West Side Playground and one for the Grafton Gardens. Both of them were native plant installation, funding for native plant installations, but for 2 very different purposes. The one at the West Side Playscape was for native plants to, and essentially to outcompete the Scotch broom that they've been trying to control there, as well as provide shade and a healthier environment for the natural playscape. And the one at the Grafton Gardens was to provide native species for a food forest and foraging opportunities. The two proposals added together exceeded the amount that we had to give away, so we basically scaled them both back percentage wise and funded or made recommendations to fund both of them. But I can't remember the exact numbers. I am sorry.
It's here and here, yeah.
Sorry.
It's in the recommendation, which is on the next.
Oh,
Yeah.
that part. I can do the things so that I have conversation points. Was there anything else that I missed that you wanted?
I would just add that to our one thing that we mentioned in our discussion was, within the grant criteria, it says that if you received a grant last year, you are welcome to apply again. But we would put that into our consideration for the next year's application. So, we liked both the applications. We try to reduce them like by an even kind of percentage based on what they had asked for, but then decided to reduce the BIF's application just a little more, just to make sure that the other project was still doable.
Viable.
Yeah, yeah, so because they had gotten a grant last year, and we thought that they'd still be able to start their work, even if they couldn't complete it. So we thought
That's right. And then there was also a thought that seems both projects are native plantings that perhaps they could pull together and place an order through Nat's nursery. And perhaps save some funds that way. Thank you.
So any questions or comments from committee members? Simone.
Thank you, McKaylee, for showing up and doing that work. I think there was supposed to be a few more of us there, but you came through very good. And just thanks for volunteering for that.
Just a couple of comments. One's the question, ecological question, and I'll start with that one because it's just fascinating for me. In the food forest one, they're talking about mimicking 7 layers of a natural forest, and you know I've never known 7 layers in a forest, but
I'm just looking through the, do you know offhand?
Yeah.
so it's nitpicking, and so it's just I'm just wondering where the it's in the
I have some guesses.
Yeah, there's a forest
Yeah.
floor and
Well,
then there's a.
What about like mineral soil, humus and leaf litter, forest floor, like.
And it goes up
ground
into the-
covers,
And there's like different levels of
Yeah.
canopy.
ground
layers,
shrubs.
Young saplings.
Or something?
Maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah.
There's
structural
layers.
yeah I'd forgotten to think of the soil layers
They're
there.
very focused on the soil.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soil.
Yeah. So it was more just I needed to be enlightened, and so it's making sense. The other thing I'm going to say about the first one, I like it. It's the thing I like about it is volunteer labor, donated machine time, work with muni staff on this project, and ongoing husbandry of the planted plants. And my hope is that they'll select drought tolerant species and fire resistant species. but, I think it's great. Any comments, questions other than that? So,
I think they both look great and I'm pleased to see these, that people are submitting applications so that we can work with the community.
they're thoughtful applications and, so my suggestion is we follow the recommendation and, as stated, and that's enough. Claudia?
I'm just wondering if they've decided on native tree species, if they need advice on which are drought tolerant and should be planted in those locations. Do you know if they've already chosen what?
But they asked me for support on the project and I said I'd be willing to help with deciding on tree species. I think if we go with a native nursery, we'll be limited on what we can pick. But yes, we would welcome some help with that.
Okay, keep in mind that.
Yeah, good point, Claudia, great. Shall we go with that motion?
Who wants to move the motion?
Seconder, all in favor? You're done.
Thank you. And with that, I need to disappear. Sorry, it's piano night, so. Yeah.
All right. Piano for you or for daughters?
Yes. It was nice to see everybody.
Yeah, thank you for saying.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. All right, let's move on to updates, council committees, Islands Trust from Councillor Fast. Or Trustee Fast.
Fast, okay. I will just be brief. I just want to say, I'm earlier, was it this week? No, last week, a meeting of the Trust Council, which is trustees from each of the 26 trustees from across the 13 local trust areas, including Bowen. In an online committee of the whole, and we agreed on a draft updated trust policy statement to send to Trust Council for hopefully first reading in September. So that's kind of the umbrella OCP over all the island OCPs, and it's the one with the directive policies like, development must not damage creeks, things like that. And so that is being updated mostly to do with climate change, because it's been like 25 years or something. So updated in terms of climate change, updated in terms of First Nations reconciliation with First Nations, because there's 32 or 34 First Nations exactly in the trust area, and lots of mutual interest. And because Islands Trust is about protecting and preserving. And the third one is affordable housing, which all the islands are also doing. So those are the main themes, but there's many other changes, some of which have come first from First Nations, because we've been consulting them already. Anyway, it's very interesting, and I look forward to bringing you the results of that. Hopefully it passes first reading. And then, yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick question, any major changes or, other than, updates in terms of like in general, the policies or anything like this kind of committee might be concerned about, or?
I hope, to be honest, I'm hoping that this committee, when it comes for, I think we just had a public comment period close. And that was during our gap while we were trying to get the committees organized. But at the next one, I will be sure to invite you to make sure you can have a look at it. Because personally, I've been looking at it for about 4 years already. And I can't remember what's new and what's old. And just in this past go round, we've had 15 meetings between May 24th last year and last week. Online Zoom meetings and things. So I'm sure it can use more eyes and input. I voted for it, because I think it needs to be updated after all that time. Yeah. And the second thing I wanted to mention is I'm on the steering committee of the BC Municipal Climate Leadership something council. And so they BCMCLC, so they're preparing some input about Clean BC, which is the provincial review that's happening. And so I sent in a letter to them. Now, it's a very short timeline, and they're mostly focused on city things because they're mostly municipal councillors and municipal staff in cities. And but I put in a bunch of links to nature-based solutions and why aren't they in Clean BC? Could we mention that? So I've sent that, I just sent that to Carla and Preet too, so you know where I'm coming from. And that might be something that we might want, maybe I'll put it in one of those info items or something like that, just because it's got a few good links that might relate to this committee's looking at the OCP even. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that, and otherwise I'm going to leave it up to Carla, because otherwise Carla and I sit on some marine committees and other committees, and she can.
I was just gonna mention that I put the Clean BC review engagement survey link in the information items for this agenda.
Oh, good.
So if anyone wants to fill out the survey, you can. Yeah, it took me a while to find it. We heard about it, but then we didn't know where to put any input in. So there's a couple of different opportunities for staff, but this is quite a straightforward survey. Like anyone can kind of go through it in 10 minutes. And there's spaces for you to just write in what you want to write in.
All right, so it would be best to just do it as individuals rather than something from the committee. Yeah, I think so.
Because this
I
isn't
think
just
so.
an advisory committee to
Yeah,
council, so if we had like tons of runway, but basically it all needs to be done by August 1st or something.
The organizational one is actually July 17th.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just got the link.
Oh, yes.
2 days, 2 days, yeah.
All right. All done, Sue?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So over to Carla.
Yeah, Carla.
Thank you. It's too bad Preet just had to leave the ferries really late, so I was hoping she could speak to the climate action strategy update. I just wanted to let you know that we have a survey out. It's a really straightforward, short survey. We're just looking at trying to set some priorities for the climate action strategy. And Preet's also working on a draft for that. We have done quite a bit of engagement, actually. All of this middle school students were really interested, and so we rushed to do that before school was out. So she went to she engaged with about 150 students from like all of the middle school students at BIPS and IPS as well. And then we've been talking to the Squamish Nation a little bit to gather some input. We went to a farmer's market as well, and yeah, so we just have this survey, which, like I said, it's pretty short and sweet, but there's some open-ended questions where you can add anything else. If you'd like to do the survey, that would be great, but we're also hoping that once we have the draft ready, that we would have another workshop with the committee, so the committee put in some more thorough input into the update. And I wanted to maybe just do like a quick informal poll and ask if you would prefer to have like an in-person workshop again. Or if we could if you would prefer if we set something up online where something like any of the new actions that we want to add to the plan, and just, you go through a survey, kind of yes, no, maybe your comments or whatever, and so you can kind of check boxes really quick and maybe let's do that, or some sort of combination of the two.
What's that idea? Rather than the meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
Summer months.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, okay, it has to be done this summer, right? She's only here for the summer.
She's only here for the summer. Council is on a break in August though, so I think we will end up presenting it in in September, but the idea is that we would finish it and have it all desktop by the end of summer, yeah.
I agree with Claudia. I think it's,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, and so next, what do I want to talk about today? Broom and Bloom event. So at the West Side Playground, I don't know if you saw the photos in the agenda. I could probably share my screen if not everyone had a chance to look at it.
I think you have to get into Zoom first.
Do I have to? That's right. I don't have the same.
I can,
It's not later.
Yeah, but it was quite dramatic, so, we cleared about 10,000 square feet of Scotch broom, and, we had quite a few volunteers show up, more than I would have expected, and it seems like the neighborhood is really keen to work on a broom out there, and, yeah, it was crazy how long everyone worked, like overtime. We said 10 to 2, we were gonna be there just to make sure we captured any time people wanted to come, but like most of the people who came were there for the full 4 hours and then stayed an extra hour because we were getting close to the end, so everyone's legs were shaking. I think we were close to injury. But it was really great and rewarding, and I'm really happy that they've applied for a grant for trees. So I think that will help to maintain the area, so.
nice.
And then we trained some new volunteers. Oh, wait, sorry. Green Shores, we're planning on offering a level 1 course in November. So more info on that's coming up. We trained new volunteers for the European Green Crab Early Detection and Monitoring Program.
I saw you out there with the volunteers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I do go and help out every now and again when I can, so, the last week we caught, it's like 45 crabs in one of our minnow traps, and the other one we caught like 30, which is unheard of.
In
by
minnow
now,
traps?
so- Yeah, just in the minnow traps, and they're just little short crabs, but it was.
Yes.
But not the green.
No, not the green
Oh,
crab.
you have not?
We have not found any green crab as of yet. There was one found fairly recently near Surreyville. I can't remember the name of the beach. It was a female with eggs on it, and I've never seen an egg sack as crazy large as that. So that is a little sad. It's close by at this point, so. Oh. Should I talk about this? Or should I not? I think it doesn't.
I think it's fine. Yeah.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Well, so we.
We thought it would be released by now, I think.
Yeah, so the Municipal Protected Areas Program, I don't know if you remember talking about this at all, but we brought that to council last year. And it was a process that we did with BC Nature where they looked at all of our protected areas and decided whether we could add that to the Canadian database. And it's, towards their goal of 30 by 30%, 30% lands and waters by 2030. And so we participated in that process, but then it got stalled a bunch of times. And then we were supposed to be doing a news release in March, but then the election happened and they didn't want to release anything. We couldn't get quotes. And so we finally have this news release that we were set to put out in the next couple of days. So that's coming soon.
We want to kind of time it with maybe with Metro Vancouver's doing
Metro
the same.
Vancouver.
There's a few different municipalities doing it, and we sort of thought if we sort of timed our little one with their big ones, we just get swept up in it and,
Yeah.
and then
So
we'd go further.
we expect potentially a little bit of press around that, but it's a good news story. And I think we have about 145 hectares that were run into the database, the community database, and protected through the program. So, and then update for capital projects. So I just wanted, which ones have we done so far? So, yes, so we just completed the stairs up at Village Drive. I haven't actually inspected them yet, but they should be reopened at this point. And then we've already completed Kate Spade Beach stairs as well. So those had to be done really early because we didn't want to miss the fish window, which was over in January kind of thing. But I think that it's a little more resilient to that now. Again, we never like to try to harden shorelines, but I think in that place, we had the bottom of the stairs there, there was about a
This is
6
the
foot drop.
photo, this is the photos that are.
Those are the
Yeah,
photos, yeah, so there was about a 6 foot drop from the bottom of the stairs to the beach at that
Yeah.
point, so we went ahead, it's hard to tell quite how steep it is,
Yeah.
but we barged it, we had some poured concrete, did some prefab, like they made a footing and a couple of stairs, and then barged them in, and then they assembled those on site. We attached the rest of the wooden staircase to those. So it was,
And then the next. picture
Pretty
is-
minimal, but
is
pretty-
The stairs at the bottom. of the-
yeah, so that's the stairs at the bottom, so just a couple of steps there that I think will stand the test of time. We hope, and make it a little bit safer, because I think it's been pretty unsafe for a long time, and pretty reluctant to do anything, but yeah, it's all above the high tide line, and we should.
But this is Katie Goodfriend.
Catesby Beach, yeah. But, yeah, so that's about it for capital projects, and then, we have the, Japanese Canadian Memorial, Collaborative Project Services Agreement was approved by council, yesterday. So, we're gonna be working with, Guanella and Museum Archives on that with, yeah, with a couple outsider people. And they haven't done the design yet, but the plan is basically to do, you know, a bench and a small shelter, just somewhere where people can go and contemplate. And there'll be some interpretive signage as well, and probably a nice torii, which is like that kind of Japanese gate. So that would be kind of closer to the beginning with a little pathway. It's all supposed to be very low impact, no ornamental plantings, but native plantings, and that's kind of how they bring in. They want to have some sort of influence from the Squamish Nation as well, so that it's not just focused around Japanese Canadians, but that they're honoring that legacy as well.
I'm sorry, where
So-
was this?
It's for Sandy Beach. Yeah, so the kind of the picnic area that's just past the parking on Sandy Beach, so between the parking and the. program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bumped into Ron Cato and he said, gee, you know, are you still doing shoreline stuff? And I was like, yeah, well, just sort of informally, but he did say that he would be, or they'd be interested to have me come and just, you know, give some ideas from a more of from the Green Shores perspective. And it occurs to me that this might be, depending on what you come up with, but it might be an opportunity also to incorporate Green Shores right into that project, because it would fit. You know, they're not doing anything down below the, you know, at the natural boundary, but that's okay. Because if they do some more planting, so it might be an opportunity. I'm not sure exactly what they're planning, but he did reach out, and because I did a little walkabout with his students from BCIT one time out at Tunstall, so he's heard my spiel. Yeah. So it was fun. So anyways, it might be an opportunity for the municipality to actually get a little demonstration project,
Good idea.
right? Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. There's when Carla mentions other people, there's some fantastic folks volunteering for the project. Ron Cato being one, of course, is architect and design and all that kind of thing. But also Adam Taylor, and who's gonna pitch in with various of the construction parts and whatever, and it's through the Museum and Archives, so Kathy Bailey. Anyway, it's a great group of people, and they've actually putting a lot of design into it, so I think super, I encourage you to get involved. It's our kind of project. If you go back, Monday's agenda had the kind of final agreement in it that council entered into with Museum and Archives. But in there, there'll be a date and probably a link to the previous one where they showed more of the designing and the contours of the slopes and that kind of thing. Although it may have changed since then, so I would just get in touch with Carla if you need anything.
More info. I'll see if Mark calls me.
Yeah, they're gone.
Right. So, done like dinner, thank you, Carla. So, information items for us to go through, question period, the crowd at the back has dispersed. And so next meeting to be discussed, and we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
What a good first meeting. Well done, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not sure, but let's put them on this.
Oh, boy, yeah.
and then-
Thank you.
Bye.